Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the television graveyard. We are your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan. We have come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows to find out which ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which ones should just stay doomed. This is a podcast in which we'll analyze the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season or only one episode. With me, as always, is TV's Noah Houlihan.
Just remember, everything happens at the right time, and you got all the time in the world.
Oh, I forgot. The theme song for this is weird.
It slaps. That's my first note. Theme song slaps.
When you can't find a knight or a dragon, and there's nowhere to get your horn curled, remember things happen at the right time, and you got all the time in the world. Yes, you got all the time in the world.
My first note is he's a dumb-looking puppet.
Yes!
Welcome to Scorch.
We're doing Scorch!
Finally.
Finally, it did take some time, but it did seem right since this has turned into a bit of a Vegas-themed month. This is Scorch, which is a TV show built around the ventriloquist puppet of Ron Lucas,
yes,
who had a residency at the Excalibur. He wasn't there when we were there, but he had a long-running residency at the Excalibur because he had a dragon.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. And this is a show built around that dragon, and that is Scorch.
Yes. So do you want to talk about the opening sequence? Because you seem to be pretty hype about it.
So it shows a dragon sleeping, and he accidentally sleeps for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, where's my family? What happened? And when he wakes up, the world is different.
Yeah.
So he goes flying through a thunderstorm, where he is struck by lightning and it loses his ability to fly. That all happens during the theme song. This is vital information because it's like canon and it sets up what the premise of the show is.
Yeah.
When did this air?
This aired in 1992.
1992, which means he went to sleep in 1892 in Los Angeles. You know, medieval times. You know?
I mean, we're even talking post-Gold Rush.
Yeah. You know how, like, the Gold Rush miners are always dealing with, like, dragons and...
Where are you getting L.A.?
Is he not in L.A.?
No, I believe he is in New Haven, Connecticut.
What? This takes place in Connecticut?
Yes. New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay. I'm so annoyed.
Yeah, I don't know where you got L.A.
Well, it's very obvious where I got L.A. because our main character, what's his name, Greg?
Brian Stevens.
Brian knew he had like a normal name. Brian is with his daughter Jess in their apartment because his daughter lives with him because he is newly divorced.
Yes.
And he is an out-of-work actor.
Yeah, and everyone knows that...
The media epicenter that is New Haven, Connecticut?
I thought New Haven was closer to New York City because I know there's parts of Connecticut that are fairly close.
Yeah.
To New York City, but no, it's about 2.5 hours away.
I think, Brian, I know why you're an out-of-work actor. Is because that's not where they make the movies or the TVs.
Yeah, because I wanted to look, because I was like, oh, maybe... I know there's parts of Connecticut that are significantly closer to New York City. But I had just decided that, oh, he has a house in the suburbs in Connecticut because he can't afford to live in New York. because he's divorced and has to find a place big enough for him and his daughter, so he needs 2 bedrooms. So I actually, without doing any of the research of where New Haven was, I had justified it as, it's close-ish to New York.
No.
Because I have that, everything in the Northeast is no more than 1 hour apart. Despite the fact that I know that's not true.
That is not true. So, that's dumb. So, we see Scorch Lake get struck by lightning, but that's just theme song. The show opens proper on Brian talking to the landlord.
Yes.
And the landlord is explaining that the new rule is no reptiles.
Yeah.
Which is setting her up to be a bit of an antagonist because, dragons pretty scaly.
It's also setting up that she seems to make arbitrary rules as his landlady.
Yeah.
So that she's just always a pain.
Yeah,
because Brian's annoyed that she kind of knocks without. She enters without knocking.
Yeah,
Bracken, I understand you're the building manager, but I would prefer it if you'd knock before you came in.
I did. I knocked, then I came in.
But then she also sounds like she is helping Brian with childcare.
That's what's so confusing, is that we're clearly setting up this character to be an antagonist. We have to hide Scorch from her because she's anti-reptiles and anti-pets. But then Brian's like, can you pick Jess up from school for me? I have an audition. She's like, sure, hon. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are way too much. Could you imagine asking your landlord to pick up your kid?
I mean, I think the way this is presented as she's a private landlady and not like...
This is in New Haven, Connecticut, where they're much kinder, unlike the mean landlords of LA, which I was picturing.
Yeah, in like the late 80s, early 90s, I could see this woman taking pity on the daughter, even if she really doesn't give a crap about the dad. Like, she's an older lady, and sometimes older ladies are like, I like this child, and I'm gonna do right and be a grandma figure to this poor little motherless girl.
It's just weird that, like, we as the audience are already putting together the loops of, like, we know Scorch will show up, and that will cause an issue. But to make her immediately softer, and in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. It's just a weird choice.
Yeah, like...
creatively.
I've lived in apartments where you can't have reptiles, and that's in the lease. Like, I've been to places where you can only have a cat or a dog.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even have, like, a gerbil.
So we see Jess.
She was having a nightmare.
She has a nightmare.
And he assures her that monsters do not exist as we see Scorch in the window.
Yes.
Which is a, like, good shot.
Yeah, Scorch there's, like, lightning. So this is when he got struck by lightning. And he just kind of, like, falls and ends up, like, going in through the window. And being a silly, quirky dragon. Like, I need a place to crash because I can't fly right now. I'm going to stay here. And Jess immediately falls in love with Scorch.
Yeah.
Brian's like, this is a monster. Calls the police, and the police hang up on him.
Yeah. It talks. All dragons talk. And the dragon is like a teenager.
I'm only 1,300 years old. I'm just a teenager. I don't even shave under my wings yet.
And it doesn't really... It's not clear what the exchange rate is, but 100-year nap is still, like, 9 months minimum.
Yeah, so, I think they were trying to make the joke that 100 years is 1 year, because he was 1,300 years old and a teenager, so he's 13. So he slept for an entire year.
Yeah, which still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's very dumb. But, like, that's not the thing we're supposed to be getting, like, hung up on, because...
It's also worth mentioning Brian has an audition the next day to be a weatherman.
You
know, because that's what actors do.
He's, like... There's a moment where he's, like, looking over the script and, like, practicing. It's like, this... You want to be a broadcaster. This is a different job. Granted, if you wanted to be an actor, you wouldn't be in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm never gonna get over this.
And he, at one point, Scorch and Brian do part of Midsummer Night's Dream.
Brian Stevens' portrayal of Puck was both energetic and inspired. For Oberon his passing fell in wrath, because that
she and her attendant hath a lovely boy stolen from an Indian king. She never had so sweet a changeling.
You know Shakespeare?
I didn't really know him, but my family vacationed near his house for about 8 fortnights. Every day we'd hear his wife yelling, "Bill, you're such a slob. Would it be so hard once in a while to pick up a codpiece and toss it in the dirty clothes?"
How did he get all the way to Connecticut?
Why is he in Connecticut? Why are either of these characters in Connecticut?
Why is anybody in Connecticut? No offense to Connecticut.
No offense to Connecticut. He does a bunch of, like, simple puns where it's like, "Hey, Scorch, how'd you sleep?" Like this. And this makes him very endearing to Jess.
Yes.
But Brian is annoyed by him and doesn't have, like, a really good reason why he's allowing this monster to stay in his home other than his daughter likes him.
Yeah, that's it. We get a real CBS designated driver ad with Mary Lou Henner, which I felt was important enough to put in my notes.
Well, it was very odd that, like, it goes to commercial throughout this because it's a TV show. That is the only commercial that's in the YouTube rips. For some reason, that one stayed. In any case.
But it pleased me.
Yes, it pleased Laura. He goes to this audition and accidentally brings Scorch with him.
Yes.
And when he goes for his audition, the guy auditioning doesn't care. He hates this job in the newsroom.
He's clearly seen too many auditions.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Brian gets a few words out. He's like, "You're done." And then as he's leaving, he accidentally bumps his bag that has Scorch in it. And Scorch starts talking. So the guy's like, "Open that bag." I guess thinking that Brian might be a kidnapper. And he produces Scorch and pretends it's his ventriloquist puppet.
Yes.
Which is like good meta humor if you're a fan of Ron Lucas. And it should be noted, Brian is not Ron Lucas.
Yes. Brian is just... Brian is an actor named Jonathan Walker.
Yeah, so I guess he's just doing the puppeteering and he's not doing ventriloquism here. In any case, there's a great bit where he yells at Scorch, like, quickly, "Don't talk when I'm talking." And Scorch goes, "Why?" So he goes, "Because that would be impossible." And it's him, like, quickly being like, "This is how we're getting out of this.
Yeah,
You have
this
to
is how we're
pretend
going to
be a
survive.
puppet." And he's very funny as a puppet. And the guy's like, "Ooh, a ventriloquist weatherman. That's new.
You're hired.
And then there's this, like, really dumb part where Brian's like, "I can't work today. I'm an actor. What's my motivation?" And the guy says, "Do you want to get paid?" It's like, "All right, I found my motivation." It's like, Brian, you knew what the job was showing up.
Yeah, I didn't understand that part either. Like, you wanted a job. You're broke and you need to afford your crappy apartment and to support your daughter, who's like your sole motivation.
So he's now part of the news team, so now we got to meet all our new characters. He meets one of the anchors, and turns out Scorch is a horny dragon.
Yes.
And starts just hitting on the anchor. The one line that I wrote down because it's so weird is they're flirting, and this girl thinks that a ventriloquist is hitting on her through a puppet.
Yes.
Scorch is a dragon hitting on a human woman.
Yes.
And she's kind of playful, like, "Oh, this is fun, it's a puppet," and goes,
You really are adorable. I could just eat you up.
Start with my toes so I can watch.
What are we doing? What? This is a CBS sitcom. Is this where we want to introduce Vor? Like, so such an odd line.
And the other main anchor we meet has like is named Howard Gurman, and he has like Ted Knight from Mary Tyler Moore. He's just a full of himself news anchor.
Yes, Howard. Did you recognize Howard?
John O'Hurley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's John O'Hurley, who you may know as Jay Peterman from Seinfeld, the host of Family Feud for a time, and the voice of Ben FM if you're in the Philadelphia area.
And the original King Neptune in SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yes, indeed. I love him. He's a great that guy actor. He's very funny.
He absolutely is.
And he's very funny in this. Scorch immediately starts, like, roasting him.
Yeah, not literally.
Not literally. And Howard's like, I need to get this guy fired. But, of course, the boss doesn't care.
Yeah.
So he's not going to do that. And also hates Howard.
Yeah.
Like, the boss is very clearly like, I would have fired you years ago. You're such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, like, the boss just doesn't want drama. So, during the broadcast, Howard and Scorch kind of verbally spar.
Yes.
And Scorch, like, gets the drop on him.
Yeah, gets the
and
drop.
becomes a big ratings hit because the audience is enjoying that.
Yes. Everybody loves Scorch. So, the new situation that's being created, that's the through line here, is Brian now needs Scorch because it got him the job as a weatherman.
Yes.
I'm going to repeat that. Brian, out of work Connecticut actor, needs a dragon to pretend to be a puppet so he can be a weatherman.
Yes.
There's a lot of moments throughout this show where there will be issues with Brian going on, and because Scorch has issues, and the boss will say the same thing to him every time. Get your act together, or you will never work in this town again. That town is New Haven, Connecticut.
Noah is not over
I'm
this.
never going to get over this. We end the pilot ends with Brian trying to sleep, and Scorch walks into the room and is like, "Hey, I can't sleep. Can I get into bed with you?" Scorch walking looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like, for 1992 puppetry, yo,
Yeah, it does look good.
that's some good stuff. And, like, me as, like, a bit of a film tech nerd was thinking to myself, a lot of the time during, like, today's puppeteering, they make the puppeteer not wear black so they disappear, but wear green so they can green screen them out.
Yes.
Scorch is green. So you can't do that.
Could you have used a blue screen?
So I would say maybe a blue screen. I think this was marionette, if I had to guess.
My guess would be, how much do you know about the creation of Elf?
I know a chunk. I know that like, for a scene like this, it would have been a dude in a suit.
Yeah, it's also, the set was laden with trapdoors.
Yes,
the
because actors
puppeteer.
would fall.
Yes. So my thought was that there were a lot of trapdoors in the set.
Yeah, but I'm sure that is true. It's just this shot is incredible because you see him full body walk through a door. Which I was like, damn, all right. I see you, Scorch. Scorch gets into bed, and then Jess is like, what are you guys doing? And he's like, why don't you get into bed too? And then they all kind of cuddle as a family. And there is this like little through line of Scorch annoys Brian, but really does care for Jess.
Yes.
And Brian really cares for Jess because he's her father. And Scorch is kind of looking for a family because his family's missing.
Right.
And like the very last shot is like all of them going to sleep. Brian reaches over and scratches under Scorch's chin.
Yeah.
And it's like a nice moment to be like, oh, okay, they're all connected in a family. I still think that overall the premise is weak. Because I think the original reasons why they had to be together were so flimsy. And it took too long to get to the weatherman stuff.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy if Scorch was asleep for 100 years for them to have built the apartment complex over his cave.
Yeah.
And then just one day Scorch wakes up and Brian would be like, what are you doing in my house? And Scorch goes, this is my house. That would immediately tie them to that location.
Yeah, and then Scorch refuses to leave. Like, I've lived here since way before you were born.
And then there can be the building from there. But I think just the original meeting, he could have been struck by lightning anywhere and ended up with anyone. But it's just random chance that leads them to be together. And then they kind of really have to work to get to a point where they have to be together and depend on each other. That's just my little nitpick for the writing here.
And then the episode ends and we hear,
Now get ready for the premiere of Fish Police next.
Yes!
Fish Police also ran the same 3 episodes in the same 3 weeks.
Yeah, Fish
My
Police.
next note. Who was the network executive that season? Are they okay?
Fish Police has been on our short list for a while. Fish Police has been something like, should we just do Fish Police? It's 3 episodes, and it's called Fish Police. So Fish Police probably something we'll do in the near future. Just because we did Scorch, and we did the lead-in for Fish Police. Episode 2. They do a bit where they're using Scorch to iron, because he can make steam. I would expect that little jokes like this would be throughout the series. They're fun little visual gags.
Yeah, and it also sets in that they're kind of settling into a routine and settling into a domesticity. Scorch is now part of their life. Oh, no, my first note for this episode is, you know what? I kind of low-key like the theme music.
Yeah, it's good.
But it does do a good job of showing that they're starting to settle into life together.
Yes. And Scorch, we got problems here. Starts barking.
Yes, like a dog.
Which is one of the symptoms of the dreaded dragon flu.
Yep.
Bum, bum, bum. They do that sting every time they say dragon flu.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes, just like that. So the conflict of this episode is Scorch is sick, but it's not like Brian can say, Scorch is sick, I can't go in.
Right.
So they have to do the news anyway. When they show up, Scorch is being Scorch. He is making little quips, and the head programmer is there. So, head of programming, some big wig in charge shows up. Mm-hmm. And he's going to receive the Man of the Year award.
Yes.
And Howard's going to present it to him.
Right.
But Howard loses his speech.
And the only other person that the big boss likes is the cute co-anchor that Scorch was hitting on.
Yes. Without Howard having the speech, Scorch makes some jokes. Now, Scorch and Brian have to induct him.
Because the boss really thought Scorch was funny.
Yes. Make it funny, make it brief, make me look good. And Scorch is like, I can't do that, I'm sick. He's like, well, you dug this hole. We go to them doing the news, and one of the symptoms of the dragon flu is
Laryngitis.
So all of a sudden, Scorch can't talk. And
so you have a puppet who can't speak?
you have a puppet that can't talk, and his boss is like, what was that? What's the point of a ventriloquist with a dummy who can't talk? I really like this boss character.
Yeah.
He's really, bummed out and, frustrated, but, he's a good voice of reason.
I mean,
for us.
A lot of this feels like the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yeah?
He feels like Lou Grant. the Ed Asner character.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've...
The gruff station manager who, like, has a heart of gold, but he's kind of a gruff jerk. Just like the head anchor kind of has a Ted Knight vibe. Mm-hmm. Or Ted Baxter.
Yeah.
And how, like, the cute coworker could arguably be your Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah. If the dragon wasn't the main character.
Yeah.
It should be noted that there's a talk between Howard and the co-anchor, who I apologize that I never wrote her name down. But Howard is
Her name is Allison.
Allison. Howard complains to Allison that he's very upset that he's not going to be able to give this award. And Allison gives him advice.
You know what you might try?
What?
Tell him you'll kill yourself.
You really think that might work?
It's worth a shot.
It was the 90s.
I'm like, that's a bit rough.
I mean, in the 90s, this was a fairly common punchline. How familiar are you with one of the greatest films of all time, Spice World?
Not especially.
When the Spice Girls are late to a gig, their manager does a prolonged bit that leads into him threatening to kill himself.
Yes, I am familiar with that scene. I think there is a difference between wacky character threatening to kill themselves and butt of the joke character being told to kill themselves by another character.
He's being told to threaten to kill himself.
But I think the rest of the joke is like...
Wait a minute. What do I do if he calls my bluff?
You give the award posthumously.
I think this is such a time thing. Like, I think this is something... It's a joke that wouldn't really be written this way today.
Yeah, like... This is a weird example, but this is what it reminded me of. It's a moment where it's like, we need joke here, but we didn't write anything good. Because I remember there was a movie I was planning to audition for, and they sent me the script. I don't have the script anymore. I don't remember what the movie was, so I don't think I'm shaming anybody. But there was a scene where, like, a girl is waiting for my character to show up, and she just farts, and then says to her dog, "I farted, do you smell that?" And I was like, this isn't a joke. This is just like, you needed something to fill here, and you just tried to say something kind of shocking and, like, referencing something funny. That's what this is. That joke of, like, what should I do? And then she has a smart Alec response. What's the smart Alec's response? We'll figure it out later. And then they never figured it out, and they went with, you should threaten to kill yourself.
I mean, interestingly enough, the actress who plays Allison is Brenda Strong, whose probably highest profile role is Mary Alice in Desperate Housewives.
Oh.
Who is the narrator who, in the first episode, kills herself.
Oh. Well. Is that irony? No, it's coincidental.
No, it's just podcast trivia.
It's podcast trivia is what it is.
Yeah, it's really not. That's really all it is. It's two things with a tenuous connection that are used as a tidbit on a podcast. We need a word for that.
That word doesn't exist yet. We then get like a bunch of bits with Scorch.
Yeah, there's like bad CGI fire when he blows his nose.
Yes. He talks about how his uncle had the dragon flu and he kicked the bucket. He didn't die. Bucket kicking is a symptom. They don't have any way to take his temperature, so they get a meat thermometer. And they do kind of do a bit where Scorch thinks they're going to examine him rectally.
Yeah. Scorch eats a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, Scorch eats like his nice socks and Howard's comb and stuff like that. There's a nice manipulation scene where he forces Brian to tell him that he loves him with all his heart.
Well, he's not totally the one doing the manipulating alone.
Yeah, Jess is a co-conspirator.
Because Jessica kisses Scorch's snout and tells him she loves him. And then Daddy tells Scorch you love him.
Yeah.
Because I have the note here. Does Scorch have his own room? Like, where is Scorch's... We only ever see them all in one bed, like, as a family.
Yeah.
Jessica does have her own room. We do see that.
I think there was a reference to Scorch sleeping on the couch, but I'm not positive about that.
I wasn't sure.
We go to Brian giving this award, and Scorch is very, very sick.
And one of the symptoms is uncontrollable swearing.
So he swears a bunch, and then he throws up fireworks.
Yes, as one does.
A huge fireworks display happens, and then he's like, here's your award. And he's like, I don't get a speech? And they go, nope, and they move on. That was a fun way to do that.
Yeah.
I was kind of digging this. And they have a moment where it's like, oh, I guess we're going to get through this. We gave the award away. Everyone thinks it's great. How wonderful. And then Brian starts barking.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Brian has the dreaded dragon flu.
Yep.
Bum, bum, bum. And that's how we end that episode.
Yes.
Episode 3 is where Scorch gets famous.
Yes. And it immediately goes to his head.
Yes. Scorch is on the cover of the TV Guide.
Yes. I guess the local TV Guide?
Yes, the local TV Guide. Because they are a local news station
in New Haven, Connecticut.
The local news does not get to be on the cover of real TV Guide.
Right.
So it immediately goes to his head, and I enjoyed this joke where Howard runs up to the boss and with the magazine goes, "What is this?" And the boss goes, "It tells you when TV shows are on." And then he looks at Brian, he goes, "What is this?" And Scorch says, "Do you want me to make the autograph out to Howard, or should we pretend like this is for a grandchild?"
Yeah.
Like, the jokes are, like, quick and smart here. And I was like, okay, I'm digging this. Which leads us to Howard's Corner.
Yes.
Where Howard's trying to tell, like, a legitimate, nice story. It's kind of like, it's a local news thing. In the Philadelphia area, we have Don Pollock's World.
Yeah.
Where it's just like a slice of life piece. But Scorch just keeps holding up his picture in the TV Guide in the background.
Yeah.
If you were watching this...
He also tells him, quote, "It must be cold there in my shadow."
Yes. If you were watching... If this was a legit news show, this would be great television.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's fun. Like, there's a dragon. Yeah, it's a cool little bit. So I could see how this would be actually successful.
Yeah. Especially if the attitude is that, like, this guy's kind of pompous and annoying.
Yes. This leads to a bit of a fight between Brian and Scorch. Because Scorch is taking things too far, but Scorch is like, everybody loves it.
Yeah.
They're arguing back and forth. He ends up getting called into the office, and the boss is like, "Hey, don't do that again." It makes Howard angry, and then I have to deal with it.
Yeah, essentially that's it. He's just like, can we not? I'm tired.
Brian actually goes, "You forgot to threaten to fire me."
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, yeah, if you do it again, you're fired." And then when he comes back, Scorch is gone because Howard has kidnapped him.
Yeah, Howard throws him in a bag and takes him home.
And now Scorch is in this situation where he's got to pretend like he's a doll because that's what Howard thinks he is. There was also a bit of a plot line that if someone on the street saw him, they would take him and experiment him on him in a lab. Like, that was an idea they just kind of threw out there.
Yeah.
Which...
That's the classic late 80s, early 90s threat. Like, E.T. started it.
Yeah.
And then for the next decade, any unique character, it was like, well, they might send them to...
Mm-hmm. I don't know how I would call the lab if I saw an anomaly just walking down the street. As two people who saw a white goat walking down the hallway one day, the highway one day, that took 3 phone calls to figure out who should be handling this.
That was my favorite phone call I've ever made in my life. Was I called the non-emergency line for the police department, hoping they could connect me with animal control, because it was not... Goats are not wild where I'm from.
Yes.
And, like, especially if you see, like, a pure white goat, I was like, this is someone's pet.
Yeah.
And so I called, and I said, like, hi, there's an animal loose on the highway, and the dispatcher cuts me off and goes, white goat?
Well, that was like a few phone calls through, because first we called the animal hospital that was nearby, and we're like, did you guys lose a goat?
Yes, we did.
And
we called the animal hospital.
They were like, no. And then we called the non-emergency line, and they were like, I don't know what to do. And then we called the police, and they were like, white goat? Yeah, we know.
Yeah, the dispatcher was unamused, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah, so... if I saw a dragon walking down the street, I don't know what I would do. And we've already established that if you call the cops, they hang up on you.
Yeah.
So, we get some bits where, like, we see Howard in, like, a pink bathrobe and, like, wearing a mask to make himself look good. Scorch doesn't know how to use a phone.
Because when men, like... In the 90s, a man putting any effort into his appearance
Hilarious.
was a punchline.
Yes. Scorch doesn't know how to use a phone, so, like...
How does Brian do this? First he puts it to his face. Oh, and then he plays the music. Hello? Hello? Operator? Yes, you can help me. I'm desperate. I'm fuming. I'm stuck in a bedroom with a guy who thinks he's got great legs and he doesn't.
Which is weird because Scorch also makes pop culture references throughout the show. For a dragon that's been asleep for 100 years, that's a bit odd.
Maybe he watches TV with Jessica?
I guess, but...
Who is, by the way, her subplot is that she is sad and eating soup in this episode. She misses Scorch and she's eating soup, and that's it.
Yeah, because once he's kidnapped, she's very upset, and is being babysat by the
landlady.
The landlady, which is weird. And Brian is now expected to do the news, and they're like, "We'll get Scorch." And he's like, "Well, Scorch is missing." And he's like, "Well, then get another puppet."
Yeah.
He's just like, he just keeps repeating, "Put your hand in the puppet and read the news."
Yeah.
And Brian actually gets to the point where he says, what if, hypothetically, Scorch wasn't a puppet, he was a real dragon, and he's missing? And I can't do ventriloquism. He's like, get a puppet, put your hand in the puppet, and do the news. Scorch eventually gets away by waiting for Howard to fall asleep and pretending to be his conscience.
Howard Gehrman. Howard Gehrman.
What?
Howard Gehrman.
Who is it?
Your conscience. You've been a naughty boy, Howard Gehrman.
I haven't.
Don't interrupt me. I don't like that, Howard.
I'm sorry.
Repent, Howard. Return the puppet Scorch.
And kind of being like, ooh, return Scorch. And
Yeah.
like blows fire.
Return the puppet or burn in hell. And then he sets off the fire alarm in Howard's apartment.
So, that's enough to make Howard return Scorch.
Yep.
And
he claimed he found it in the parking lot.
Yes. There's a good line from Allison of, Howard, what's wrong? You look your age.
Ooh, burn.
Scorch is returned, and then they have kind of this, like, I thought you ran away because we had a fight. And Scorch is like, no, I would never do that. I count on you. You count on me. We're a team. And that's kind of like the all moment.
And the end of the series.
The end of the series. It's a fun little show. It really is.
Yeah, its main issue is that it was at the very end of a trend.
Right.
It was at the very end of the weird creature joins a family group of TV shows. Because it's going to give way to the trend of the composition of the family is the interest point. Mm-hmm. Like the Full House, Step by Step.
Family Matters, yeah.
And then, which will also give way to an odd person joins the family later on in, like, the TGIF run.
Yes.
Or that your main character is an odd person, like a Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
And Urkel. I guess... because, like, when we say, like, these odd character shows, we're talking about Alf as, like, the big one. But then there was, like, Small Wonder, which was about a family, but the one daughter's a robot.
Yeah.
Like, shows like that. There was a show... what was this show? It was, like... The guy was a vet, but he had a dog that was also a ghost. And he could talk, but only he could see him. What was that show? What was that show?
Oh my god, I'm like...
I'm
like hearing the theme song in my head.
I'm a ghost. I'm referencing Macbeth.
Half man, half dog, half ghost.
It's Macbeth. Macbeth.
Macduff.
Was it Macduff? It was
yes. Macduff. Which is... It took me a minute to find it in my notes because I was in a mood when we watched that one, and the title of the file is Stupid Dumb Dog Show.
That could be many shows that we've covered.
Yes.
So that was a joke. But this type of show existed for a bit where they were just like, it's a normal family, but here's a weird thing. It's kind of like... Stick Around with Andy Kaufman, where he was like a weird...
Yeah, this is like a 70s, 80s trend. Yeah. This came out in 1992.
Yeah, the most recent one of these shows I could think of was, remember You Wish?
Yes, and that...
TGIF
and it didn't
Genie
do well.
Show. It did terrible. It was awful.
I believe it would actually be eligible for this program.
I think so, but I believe it ran like 24 episodes. Because there was that weird time... in TGIF, where the only normal show was Boy Meets World, and the other shows were Sabrina the Teenage Witch, You Wish, which was a genie show, and Teen Angel, which was about a kid who died and came back as a guardian angel.
You Wish only ran 13 half-hour episodes. It did run a full season on ABC in the 97-98 season.
Yeah. So, I am actually...
This was trying to eat whatever crumbs Alf had left behind.
Yeah, this is definitely trying to follow that type of feel. I personally am a fan of Ron Lucas. I'm not a big ventriloquist guy. I feel like it's stand-up but cheating. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Jeff Dunham guy. I feel like you are putting the onus of saying something offensive into someone else's mouth so you can get away with it. And, like, that means your jokes lack your own ownership.
Yeah.
That's just the comic in me speaking. But I really felt like Ron Lucas had a very original act. I've seen Ron Lucas a few times. I've seen him do Scorch before. He also did a bit that I couldn't find where I saw this, but I remember it being Ron Lucas, where he took someone from the audience out and said, basically, I forgot my puppets.
Okay.
I need you to be my puppet. And he would do this thing where he would, like, tell them, like, I'm going to squeeze the back of your neck and you open your mouth. And that would be his puppet. And then eventually be like, I have a better idea. And he would put, like, a fake mouth over you. Mm-hmm. And then he would press a button and the mouth would open. So his ventriloquist dummy is now a person from the audience. And the person from the audience is just sitting there. But, like, it creates a new level to the ventriloquist act.
It's not leaning on, like, the character of the puppet as much.
And it's unique. It's not, oh no, I have termites, not the old ventriloquist jokes. I really like Ron Lucas. And you know what? I like this show. I don't know if it's a must-see for me. Like, I don't think I would tune in to CBS to make sure I saw Scorch. If this was on, like, Nickelodeon, yeah, I'd be into this.
This aired Fridays at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
This was airing... TGIF was in its infancy. TGIF was in its second season. It had found some success. So CBS was attempting to run family not counter-programming, competitive family programming.
Right.
And it airs with this and Fish Police, and I dare say this block floundered.
Ooh!
Yeah! They don't find much success with that time slot until they start airing Diagnosis Murder, which is successful counter-programming because TGIF is aimed at families and younger people, and Diagnosis Murder was headlined by Dick Van Dyke, who was, I believe, in his 70s then.
Yeah. So, what's your verdict on this one?
This is a hard one because it's so harmless.
Yeah.
That, like, I hate to be like, it's a stay doomed. I don't think I'm the target audience for this.
Right.
So I'm willing to give it a stay tuned because I might have really liked this when I was 7 years old. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually really liked the fact that the newsroom parts of it felt very Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
Which was airing actively on Nick at Night in this time period.
Yeah.
So kids might have been familiar with it. I was, but I was always a little weirdo. So I could call it a stay tuned.
I'm going to give it a stay tuned as well. I thought it was pretty slick. Like, there's a few jokes and stuff that I point out where I'm like, this could be better. If this was just a pilot, I'd be like, oh my God, green light, because we can fix all the issues after this goes to series. As a series, there are some pitfalls, but, like, the biggest problem with it is that Alf already existed, and if you weren't a fan of Alf, you're not going to like this. And if you were a fan of Alf, you're going to be like, this is just Alf. So that is a problem with it, but I enjoyed it. I legitimately laughed a few times. I thought it was pretty interesting and fun. I think there's a lot of places you could go with it if you wanted to, like, actually tell a story of, like, hey, why did I sleep for 100 years? Where is my family? Stuff like that, I think, would be very interesting. So,
yeah.
I'm going to give it a stay tuned. I'm also going to say, dare I say, this is the best talking creature show we have covered on Stay Tuned.
Ooh. I think you're right.
Yeah.
But ooh.
Like I know we all love McDuff. Rosie was a nightmare. Ooh. It's way better than Mr. Ed. Ooh. It's better than Puchinsky.
Yeah.
I think this is far and away the best talking creature show that we've watched.
Yeah, I think you might be right now that we're, like, really going through them. I'd have to... I'm trying to think if there's one we're missing that, like, stands out.
Yeah.
And I'm not...
Kind of Ty sticking around in there, but I didn't really care for that one.
Yeah, I mean... I'm actually...
It's better than Area 56 or whatever that one was.
No.
No?
If you won't have me at my worst, then I'm gonna burn down this goddamn house.
I don't want to say Christine McConnell fits that category.
Why? Because it's puppets?
No, because the fact that the creatures talk is not considered strange.
Fair. So that would also cut out Little Mermaid's Island.
Yes, yeah, that's just a world where those creatures exist.
So yeah, based on that...
It's not like, oh my god, I have a talking raccoon in Christine McConnell. It's just like, yo,
No, that's Rosie.
This is the world we live in.
Yeah, as in following that line of rules, I think you are right, yes.
Yeah. But that's going to do it here at Stay Doomed Studios. Guys, guess what we're watching next week?
What?
You know him. You love him. You don't love him. But you loved our episode on him. We are going back to the well, or the Houdini water tank of Chris Angel, to cover Phenomenon, a live magician reality show. Oh boy, I can't wait for this one.
This is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. I love it. I'm excited. So that's going to be next week, so be sure to join us for that. Where can people find us, Laura?
You can email us at the Stay Doomed Show or on Facebook and Twitter at Stay Doomed.
And if you are looking for actors in New Haven, Connecticut, I'm at +2 Comedy on Twitter and TV's Noah on Instagram.
If you want to really just draw the lines on what counts as a talking creature TV show, I am at Priorities on Twitter and Glitter and Glow Tape on Instagram. Until next time, stay doomed.